Alright, welcome back, and this is going to be the final video where I finally remove the 2-liter engine and go through some of the work that's required in order to get the 3.6 in there and working. This definitely has to be one of the best tools when removing an engine, and that's the engine leveler. So you can see here that I'm just cranking this handle to get the engine nice and level so that when it comes out, it doesn't swing or tilt any way that I don't want it to. Here I'm just making sure to tuck everything that's kind of sticking out from the engine back into it so that everything clears when the block and the gearbox are shifted out from the engine bay. Now that I'm happy with clearancing, I'm going to start removing or loosening up the engine and the gearbox bolts. And I like to do these just a little bit at a time, just to make sure I don't foul anything or nothing drops too suddenly. Can't forget to remove the dog bone bolts as well. Okay, so now that the engine's free from all the mounting points, you're able to slowly drop and wiggle the engine out from the engine bay. You can see that the gearbox bolts here are gone. On the engine side as well, when I swing over onto that side, you can see that those bolts are also gone. So the main goal here is to make sure that the drive shafts are clearing and that nothing's hitting the chassis rails. and down we go. So now the engine's out, I'm just going to remove this drive shaft because the front wheel drive one is a different length to the all wheel drive one, which we'll need to swap around later on. Here's the 3.6 litre engine along with its gearbox rolling into the engine bay. Super excited for this now. If you'd watched my previous videos, you remember that the car was originally a front-wheel drive vehicle, which I've now converted to all-wheel drive. So this is kind of one of the last bits for it, where I need to attach the prop shaft bushing to the front of the prop shaft because it just wasn't going to fit with the subframe in place. Now that big step's done, it's time to tackle some wiring. So starting afresh on a new day, I've got to add a lot of other sensors and systems into the setup so that the ECU can get all the correct signals from the engine. So this first lot of wiring that I'm working on is adding the second bank of oxygen sensors to the car. that I've got extra movement, you can see that I'm able to pull out each of the wiring pin holders much easier than before. Now, straight after removing these from the donor wiring loom, I made sure to add the pin numbers on this blue tape. With some of the wires, I did need to cut and extend them, making sure that the wire thickness that I was using in that cut section was adequate enough. So here I'm just comparing the lengths of the pre-cat oxygen sensors. You can see the 2-liter one is still on there, and the length is significantly longer for the V6 one, as you can see there. So for the black plug, it's simply just a plug and play, remove the 2-liter one and replace it with the VR6 one. With the brown one, however, that wiring does need to be added into the system. And here we go, all of the wires that need to be pinned into the ECU for that brown plug, or bank 2 oxygen sensor. So you really have to be super careful and accurate with where these wires go so that you don't damage any components and you get the correct signals going to the ECU. So there's definitely a lot of counting, recounting, pinning, double checking, and then triple checking what's been done. So not only does there have to be work done at the ECU plugs, but extra fuses need to be added to the fuse box here at the engine bay. So I'm just showing you how to unclip that top panel to gain access to the underneath fastenings to then be able to remove the fuse units here. So there was a lot more to the wiring, which I guess I won't bore you guys with because it is a long process to get the wiring sort of running right, have it all in the right locations, checking and double checking what's going on there. So what I'll do is I'll fade away and I'll fast forward to the next exciting bit, which is hoisting in the 3.6 liter engine and gearbox. So funny thing here is that there are some forum posts on, some very popular forums out there that were speculating that the 3.6 liter engine actually wouldn't fit in this engine bay, that it might be too tall or too wide, and that it simply won't work. But, let's have a look and see what happens. Looks like a good fit to me. So, next step is reprogramming the ECU. Okay, so this is where things started to escalate really, really fast, and I wasn't really expecting to get to this stage so early, but let's have a look and see what happens here with the first starting of the engine. So with all four wheels up off the ground, you can see that the Quattro is working. Here I'm just going to test that the accelerator pedal does indeed function properly. Okay, so how does that sound from the back where the exhaust is? So that all sounds pretty good to me. So after that, I pretty much put the car back together, as you can see, and I guess took it for a test drive. So as soon as that needle hit 90, I went and got some coolant to top up the coolant reservoir. So now it's just time to iron out some small kinks, but basically, I can have fun now. So thanks for watching and see you next time.